All right, everyone. Hello, hello. I am Paige Mulhern, and I am here joined with Robin David. We are both very excited here to have you all together with us the day before Earth Day. So feel free to drop some of your questions in the chat. I know you all have been introducing yourselves, but we're going to save some room at the end for a Q&A. So feel free to utilize that chat box, say hi to some people, and we'll answer as many questions we can at the end. All right, so as I said, my name is Paige and I am the creative director of the Best Bees Company. I am joined today calling in from Boston, Mass. Joined today with Robin David, our West Coast business developer and Seattle beekeeper. We're so excited to have you all today. And before we get into what makes us super jazzed about bees, allow me to introduce myself. So as I mentioned, I am the creative director of Best Bees. I started with the company in 2015, fresh out of art school with a BFA in illustration. So when I was at school, I did my thesis on honeybees, which was a collection of 20 watercolor paintings about colony collapse disorder, which was really running rampant at the time. So I did a bunch of research on the subject, and that introduced me to a large network of beekeepers in Boston. One of them was Noah Wilson Rich, one of our founders. We jived right away, which was awesome, and he asked me to join the team. At first, I was our receptionist, taking on a variety of projects. At that time, the company was really starting to take off. Then it turned to 2016 and I began painting and designing beehives for our clients. Today, we employ several artists involved in what we call our custom shop that lets anyone get a one-of-a-kind design on their beehives. 6 years later, I lead an incredible team of designers and marketers that build our brand. It's been such an incredible journey. I'm so thankful for it, and I'm so excited to see what happens next. So Robin, I'll pass it off to you.
Thanks, Paige. I always love looking at your hives. They're just so awesome. And that being said, I'm Robin David, Seattle beekeeper and business developer. And I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My beekeeping journey began in 2018 when I felt a need for a career change. It just wasn't doing it for me. What I used to do was an engineering job, kind of stuck in my own spot. And one of the things I set out to learn after quitting that job was beekeeping. And that's just the one that stuck. You know, I found Best Bees through some local connections in Seattle. And I'm privileged to have beekeeping be my career now. I now get to lead the Seattle team with 30 plus hives for Best Bees located throughout the city of Seattle. I really get to rep my town here. They're on rooftops, campuses, and even our lovely client spaces that they've shared with us for our research. I found success in beekeeping by understanding not only our human connection with bees, but the bees' connection with nature. Our ability to provide the best infrastructure for bees paired with the understanding of my region's seasonal nectar flow has allowed me to build some massive hives that have been great for surviving. Along with that, I'm able to help my company grow and connect with a lot of new people and spread the word of our research through business development, all with the trusty help of my trusty sidekick, Jerry. It's been so fun meeting you in the audience and helping share my passion towards bees and learn about your passion to help the bees and the environment. Back to you, Paige.
All right, thanks, Robin. So now let me show you a short video and introduce you to some of our other next generation beekeepers, as we call ourselves, who tend to beehives stretching from New England to Manhattan and DC, all the way to Southern California, up to the Rocky Mountains and the Pacific Northwest. We cover so many regions in between. It's such a great group of people. So let's roll that video, Emily.
Hey, while Emily gets that prepped, Paige, can I show you something cool?
Yeah.
So everybody, Paige was my secret Santa, and this is one of the plants I had set up. And so I just wanted to show it to you, Paige. Thank you again. And on Earth Day, it's always great to see some of our seeds, you know, flourish and become flowers. Well, hopefully soon this will be a flower.
It's a great metaphor. All right, let's do this, Emily.
Happy Earth Day from Marcel in the San Francisco Bay. Hi, this is us wishing you a happy Earth Day from Boston.
Hi, it's me, Victoria in Philadelphia for Best Bees, and happy Earth Day. Hey, this is Nicole from Houston, coming at you from Hyde at the Woodlands, and happy Earth Day.
Hey, this is Will, a Los Angeles-based beekeeper for the Best Bees Company, wishing you a happy Earth Day from the sunny Southern California suburb of Thousand Oaks.
Hello, this is Dallas in Seattle. The ladies and I wish you happy Earth Day.
Hi, happy Earth Day from Sarah from the Chicago area, and happy spring. Happy bees.
All right.
Thank
So
you.
fun. So good to see everyone. And there you have it, folks, our fabulous team. Each and every one of those beekeepers is making a difference, not only on Earth Day, but every day, tending to a vital species that makes our planet thrive. As Paige mentioned, we're all from different areas of the country. This means different seasons, different flora and fauna, and even different bee behaviors. Despite the variety, we're all connected as stewards of a network of data yielding beehives.
Our data is what makes us unique. As many of you may know, the Best Bees Company was co-founded not by a businessman, but by a bee scientist. After getting his PhD in honeybee immunology, Noah Wilson Rich started Best Bees as a means to fund his own honeybee research. 11 years later, we've remained research-driven on a mission to improve bee health. So we do this by collecting data from all of our beehives on an app called Buzz that was developed by our other wonderful co-founder, Sean Cahill. This proprietary system allows us to keep records from beehive visits. Thus far, to date, we've collected over 50,000 hive visits, measuring things such as population, queen health, honey sums, disease and mite levels. On top of that, which makes things super great, is that our beekeeping practices have been uniquely developed to control for variables in our data set. This ensures that what we record is reliable for our ongoing research partners. So what that means is whether you're opening up a hive in Hollywood Hills or on the coast of Cape Cod, it's all tracked in the same way, giving us standardized data and a unique insight into bee behavior and trends across the country. All of this is in an effort to save the bees. So let's talk about why bees matter.
So much of life depends on honeybees. Virtually all flowers you plant need pollination. Did you know that one tiny bee can visit up to 5,000 flowers in a single day? And that 1 pound of honey is comprised of 2 million flowers. That's a lot. That is a lot of plant life. That not only makes our world more beautiful, but also makes it more diverse and sustainable. In addition to the flowering plants, human life too hinges on the survival of pollinators. Pollinators are often said to be responsible for 1 out of every 3 bites of food we eat. This includes over 70 crops of fruits and vegetables like peaches, pears, celery, and onions, as well as various nuts, herbs, and spices, and even the plants that feed our cattle and livestock. All of this pollination is economically significant. As a whole, pollinators contribute up to 577 billion annually in global food production. Bees in the US alone contribute nearly 20 billion. But honeybees are one of 20,000 species of bees. They're what we call an indicator species because their health likely correlates to pollinator health overall. Honeybees in particular are a great species to study because they return to their hives, making them easy to observe. They're social and extremely friendly, unlike wasps or hornets. Honeybees have been proven to be a remarkable tool for scientists studying ecosystems. Not only is their health an indicator of the general well-being of the environment, their honey tells us a lot about biodiversity. This is why we love studying honeybees and collecting data on their health. It's a way for us to see the bigger picture of our planet's many vital ecosystems.
That's right. So let's discuss a little bit about what we're finding. So in Boston, our head beekeeper, Shay Willette, shout out if you're here, Shay, and their team are studying the data that we've collected over the past year. By analyzing these thousands of data points across the country, our team has a special insight into what's working and what isn't, and how we can form hypotheses and adjust our methods accordingly. So some examples of projects we have on the way are how windy and shady locations affect bee behavior, the effectiveness of our treatments against varroa mites, how droughts are impacting our colonies, and many, many more. We report on these on our blog and social media, so stay tuned and stay following us for more research updates. That's just the tip of the iceberg. One thing that I'm super excited about is that how our research right now is allowing us to identify strong colonies. So these are the ones that produced a lot of honey or have survived several winters or are resilient to mites and diseases. These are what we call our superstar colonies. We're breeding queens from them. The goal there is to produce hardy and healthy queens, thus creating hardy and healthy colonies. So this is a really beautiful picture of one of our beekeepers in action. It's a gorgeous brood frame. And what we hope to do by breeding sustainable bees is just one way that we can combat the ongoing plight of pollinators. So as I said, Best Bees has been mission driven for 11 years, and we've spent these 11 years studying bees across a wide range of environments, leading us to the best practices and improving bee health and overall colony survival. But we still lose more than 40% of beehives each year, especially in northern climates. And by we, not just talking Best Bees beekeepers, but beekeepers across the US. This year is particularly tough, and we lost almost 60%. So yeah, the bees need saving. There are many reasons for their struggle. The changing climate is a big one. So this year we experienced particularly bad weather conditions such as tornadoes, floods, unprecedented freezes in the southern states where we source some of our colonies. This caused our bees to be delayed, and we even had a few deliveries canceled. So the climate continues to change, and we have to act with agility to protect our pollinators. It's just one of the many stressors causing the decline of bees. Others include pesticides, diseases, pathogens, and habitat loss. So I know this is a little bit of a downer, but we're going to bring you up because what we are so excited to share with you all today is that this is a collective effort. We can't save the bees on our own. And there's something simple that we can all do to help.
Plant flowers. That's right. Improving bee health can be as easy as planting a flower. Bees take in such a diverse array of flowers, you can't really go wrong with what you choose to plant. Whether it's a sunflower that's super easy to manage, or my personal favorite, lupin, you can choose how you want to provide the bees a nice treat in your garden. Every little plant helps. We believe that nutrition plays a key role in beehive productivity and longevity. We're studying this hypothesis that bee nutrition correlates with biodiversity. Biodiversity refers to the variety of living species on Earth, including plants, animals, bacteria, and fungi. A healthy ecosystem has a rich level of biodiversity, meaning that a more diverse diet makes for a healthier honeybee colony. Makes sense, right? Like humans, bees get less sick and live longer lives when they're eating a healthy and varied diet. So to measure the diversity of their diet, we've invented honey DNA, or what we like to say, the 23andMe of honey. Honey DNA uses genomic sequencing to identify the protein content or pollen found in the honey. By mapping the DNA genomes using this cutting-edge technology, we're now measuring what plant types are out there for pollinators, what proportion exists for each plant, and the timing of their blooms over the course of years. All this data is coming from each hive that we have in our network. And each hive gives us an understanding of what the bees like around their homes, ranging 3 to 5 miles, because that's how far bees can forage from their hive.
Yep. And honey DNA and other trends within the scientific community are what are so encouraging to us. So there are some hopeful signs. First, there's a lot of enthusiasm for bees, from individuals like you who decided to join our webinar today to academic institutions doing research. We're all waking up to the idea that bees need our help and we're jumping into action. There's also a ton of innovation happening in the field. At Best Bees, we're defining state-of-the-art beekeeping, where data yielding beehives are living barometers of ecosystem health. Outside of our organization, beekeepers, scientists, and artists around the world are creating new ways in which we interact with nature, bees, and our environment. So with more data, new technology, and an infusion of interest in saving the bees, we can see where pollinators are dying and where they're thriving. It's helping us to learn how we can breed healthier queens and create sustainable beehives. On many different fronts, it's even helping us draw conclusions about biodiversity and climate change. So on this eve of Earth Day, we want to give you some tools so you can help too. So here's some ways to take action. First, advocate for bees. Use your voice, your Instagram, your Facebook, whatever you use on social media, and share information about bees. Second, as Robin mentioned, plant native wildflowers. Change really does start in the backyard. We can all help improve the greenness of our local ecology, no matter where we live and no matter our age or ability. Third, get bees. Professionally managed beehives are a low maintenance and high impact option for those interested in expanding the bee population. Your beehive, if owned by or managed by the Best Bees Company, will be one of thousands contributing to data for scientific research. Or you can do it yourself. Get involved in local beekeeping classes and join the Bee Informed Partnership. And lastly, get honey DNA. As you've heard, honey DNA is a larger research effort. Whether you're a beekeeper or just a curious shopper at a farmer's market, you can get your own local honey tested and figure out what your bees like to forage from and what you can plant more of. Or you can simply thank a bee. Look outside on this gorgeous day and stop and smell the flowers that are pollinated by honeybees. As said by our New York beekeeper, Marcella, also shout out if you're here. I loved this quote, so I wanted to share it with you all. These small creatures are everywhere, living parallel lives to ours, largely outside our scope of attention, yet foundational to life on Earth. Let's honor that role with our attention, a moment or two, to tune into these other lives humming along all around us.
Well put. Awesome. And thank you all for joining us. And let's get to the questions. Emily, do you want to read off our first one?
Yeah, sure. So let's start with this question from Erica. She wondered, how far away from someone's home should a beehive be placed?
I can feel that one. Yeah, out in the field here in Seattle, I install a ton of beehives in buildings and people's residence. I've got some people who are happy with their beehives in their backyard, and those are about 20, 30 feet from the nearest door. But I've got some people who are a little more fearless and have them right by their front door just because they love to show it off to the neighborhood, and they haven't had any issues. So it really depends on your personal comfort level and yeah, and just where you want to have them. So.
Yeah, I can bounce off too. I've seen some amazing beehive setups in my years with Best Bees, from fire escapes. I know Noah Wilson Rich, if you're here, shout out to you. He even uses his as a cocktail table on his small deck in Dorchester. So as long as you have enough space for the bees to come in and out of the hive and enough space for a beekeeper to do their thing, then you're good to go. Bees are extremely docile, so it's actually a lot more flexible than you might think. All right, what else we got, Emily?
Super. So another question we have is, here's an interesting one. How many honeybees are in a typical hive?
That's a good question.
Fun.
You want to get that on Paige, or you want me to get it?
I got it, yeah. So beehive packages typically start at the beginning of the season with 10,000 beehives. And that population grows to the peak, which is usually around August, July, August is the peak bee season in most areas. And then they can get up to like 50 to 80,000 bees per hive. So they multiply quickly. And but you never actually really see that number all in one place because they're just constantly going in and out of the hive to forage. Bees actually travel about 3 to 5 miles from the hive. So, when you say 80,000 bees, it can seem sort of scary, but it's all just this like flux of bees coming in and out. Very peaceful experience to watch them do so.
That's really interesting. Here's a question from Brittany that I love. What is the most important lesson you've learned from beekeeping?
Robin, why don't you take that one?
That's a great question. And then my brain goes multiple ways because I've learned a lot of lessons. And I think the most important one I want to say was just understanding the bee's connection with nature, because learning that I've kind of like pulled myself out as a beekeeper to begin with, because to start I was like, what are we doing here? Why do we beekeep? Why do they need us if they can survive in nature? And there are little things that we can do to help them adjust and survive, but understanding how they connect really pulls us out as people, and really we're able to understand how everything connects. And that could mean like how nature flows in the spring or how it closes down in the winter, and what bees do to provide protection for themselves for that. So I'd say the connection to nature would be my favorite lesson. Paige, do you have a good one?
Yeah, I love that one. I think for me, it's been an exercise in mindfulness, just staying very present. When you're beekeeping, you get to sort of escape into the hive, and any stressors that, might have been on your mind before, just really dissolve. There can be the initial fear when you start beekeeping of getting stung. So sort of balancing that internal and external anxiety, and just like focusing and knowing that you're doing it as a steward for the environment is just, it's a really great lesson to learn in that. So one of many very special things that the bees teach us.
Yes, indeed.
All right, let's keep going. We have lots of time for questions.
Okay, here's one. How do we harvest the honey, and do we sell it at local farmers markets?
Yeah. So we do not sell our honey at too many local farmers markets. How our service works is that everything that the bees create belongs to the client. So whatever honey we harvest just goes right back to the folks who are a client of ours. That said, we do have some reserve apiaries where we sell some honey in some local shops. If anyone is in the Boston area, Olives and Grace is an amazing boutique. Our good friend Sophie owns it. They sell our honey there. But how do we harvest it? So yeah, there is, in Boston, we have our whole harvesting team, where essentially we take the frames of honey from the hives in the field, carry them back into the headquarters, our operations shop in Boston, where our team uncaps it, puts it through a spinner and jars it, labels it, and sends it right back to the client. So it's a whole turnkey experience. We do the sticky work, all that heavy lifting. And then nationally, where we don't have facilities, the beekeepers, actually, Robin, maybe you could tell how you like to harvest honey.
Yes. So a few things there. Like Paige said, we go out to the clients and we collect the honey that's in excess to the hive. Obviously, if we take some, we always want to leave some for the bees to keep for overwintering and eating throughout the year. But like we said, I have a little workshop here in my home where I can actually extract the honey myself, and also same with my other teammates in my region. So we would just extract it, bring it on home through the truck, bring it over. It's real sticky. It's a real sticky situation, but it's a fun situation. It's really cool. You get to see how the extractor works, because it's kind of like that ride that they have at the fair where you like spin really fast and then you get stuck to the walls. It's the same concept happening inside there. So, but yeah, then we would just jar it and deliver it back to the clients whenever they're ready for it. Yeah.
Awesome. Another question we've got is, what plants does Best Bees find most often in our honey DNA results?
That's a fun question. So we're actually working on publishing all of our results online, so stay tuned for this new development. But we've seen thousands and thousands and thousands of species of plants pop up in our data set. But some of the most common that I see are clover, daisy, roses, dandelion, let's see, oak, magnolia, lots of trees. Even linden trees in Boston's a really big one. Yeah, I think those are the top that I've seen, like just popping up almost on every single report that we read through. I think that the biggest thing that I learned through analyzing and looking at our honey DNA was how important trees are and how important weeds are. So one thing is, if you have, a big lawn, maybe avoid grooming it all the time. Like, let's let some of those clovers and those dandelions kind of pop up, and maybe meadows will be the new lawns in the future. All right, next question.
All right. Another question we have is, as a national company, do we see that different cities or regions do better than others, or how do they compare?
Robin, do you want to take that as a West Coast?
For the West Coast, we do see different results between San Francisco, Bay Area, Portland, and Seattle. I believe our San Francisco operation is our kind of like superstar right now. I believe they have like really good overwintering rates in comparison to the other West Coast cities that we have. So we do see a difference throughout. But what's cool is we're seeing improvements throughout the years. I believe in Seattle, our survivability jumped a good 30-40% in comparison to last year. So we're seeing a steady incline out here versus other times. How's it looking on the East Coast there, Paige?
Yeah, it's a great answer. I mean, similarly, there's such a flux year to year, but it's all seeming very positive. One thing that I can say is that coastal beehives tend to do really well, as we've noticed from the Boston area. My friend and I were just beekeeping on Provincetown. Something about that, the coast, it's sort of being distant from other areas. Maybe they just have great genetics. But these are all fascinating things that we're learning. And Shay and their team, our head beekeeper who's analyzing the data, would probably be able to report more specifics. But yeah, that's what I can say about that.
All right, thanks. Another question we have is, can we share any client names of companies that have our services who are notable?
Ooh, yeah, that's a fun one. I think so. Yeah, I mean, let's see. This is a great quiz for me. Robin, as our business developer, probably has some more on the tip of his tongue.
Yeah, do you want to hit you with a few that I absolutely love servicing our clients out here, and it's just like, it's always a wild ride when I get to go on like a campus that's like super nice and everyone's just super happy. So one of my newest clients here is Expedia, and they're big in the travel game, if you need a flight, which is kind of hard to do right now, but they're one of our big name clients out here, as well as Beacon is a big one throughout the nation. They run a lot of the buildings that you may not know that they actually do run. And I believe they actually run one of our Amazon buildings out here in Seattle, along with another big one that I like is Key Bank, which is a bank local to here. I'm not sure if they're national. I don't get out of Seattle much anymore, but they're always a fun client to have. And they're all three of those are rooftops that I run out here. So
very cool. Yeah, some household names that come to my mind. We have Harvard Business School, which is really great in the Boston area, as well as Whole Foods and Toyota. So yeah, we got some cool corporate clients making a difference through their sustainability program. So it's great that they support folks like us.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely some cool folks that we work with. So another question we've got that's an interesting one relating to us here in Massachusetts. Someone was wondering, do the beehives do better in urban areas where there's not as much pesticide use typically, versus in suburbia where there's lots of pesticide use?
Hmm. Yeah, so there was some data on that a few years ago, and I would love to double check with Noah for a bit of a fact check moment. So I can definitely follow up with this one. But if I recall, a couple years ago, they had done a Suffolk County pesticide level test in honey and did find that cities have lower pesticide use, and we have seen that bees trend to do better in urban environments. Some other hypotheses we have is that in urban environments, there does tend to be a little bit more of a diverse flora, whether it be, unused spaces that weeds are growing in, variety of different rooftop gardens, landscape, people want to use a lot of different flowers versus somewhere a bit more rural where there might be a lot of fields or monocrop cultures. So smaller, cities, with the progressive landscapes, we're definitely seeing that there's a little bit more of a diversity. And I actually saw a question that I wanted to address that sort of is a good segue in that, is that Steve asked about this trend in urban beekeeping, which is to not keep bees, but rather to plant forage for them so they're not overcrowded. And he asked how we feel about this. So that's one of those things where we're very mindful to be promoting the planting of all sorts of diverse flora, especially green rooftops. So it's something that we see as one of the goals of ours is to, have our clients, especially in urban areas, also commit to going from gray to green. So as we put beehives out there, it's really important to just continue to diversify their environment. So something we're really passionate about at Best Bees.
Awesome. Hey, here's one other question we have. So someone was worried about what their neighbor's reaction might be to getting a beehive, and we're wondering if you've got any advice about that, or if it's possible to set it up on sort of a trial basis and see what kind of reactions they might get from neighbors.
I can feel this one. So I'm a beekeeper, and I actually don't have a huge yard, and actually I just don't have a yard, but my neighbors know that I'm a beekeeper, and I actually keep a hive on their property. And when I walk through my driveway, which is tiny, or walk around my house, you don't really notice the bees are there. A big thing that we have in our regulations here is a 6-foot privacy fence. And then along with that, and understanding how beehives work, the flight line can go vertical, which will turn the bees almost like invisible to the naked eye once they're so far away. Even though there's those 70,000 bees right in the apex of the season, you can kind of miss them unless you're really, really focusing on that spot on the other side of the fence. So fencing always works. I always use in more dense spots with my clients. I use a technique called bushing in, which is using like a little bush to divert that flight path there, and it really helps kind of dissipate that focus of a ton of bees coming in. And yeah, hopefully that answers the question. Paige, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, the only thing I'll add is just that education is key. I think a big thing we want to do is just remove the stigma around bees. As people have that idea, maybe from Winnie the Pooh, that there's going to be a swarm chasing you. And surely it does hurt to get stung by a bee, but it's so infrequent, and there's pollinators everywhere, no matter if it's in a single hive in your backyard or just, some farm down the road, and bees travel a very large distance. So I think educating is key. And so we're happy to share any educational resources. You can find them on our blog and on our social media as well. And the more people know bees and kind of, understand how they work, the more comfortable they are.
So speaking of education and how important that is, we did have one question from Bill. He was wondering if we do any work with elementary schools or kids groups, and how we reach out to younger, curious bee enthusiasts.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, so we definitely do. We're available for different events, as well as hiring us to be your beekeepers. We have a couple schools as clients of ours. There's a local library around here called the Robbins Library, and their students actually painted the beehives to look like little schoolhouses, which was really cute, and getting them involved. They even use honey DNA as part of the curriculum to teach their students about what's growing and what to plant. Right now with the COVID world, things are virtual, but hopefully, when things open back up, we can start to really set our sights on fun events to engage the youth. We are the next generation of beekeepers, and I'm like so passionate about the generation that comes next. So any way we can foster that enthusiasm is super exciting to me. So yeah, more to come for sure.
I'd like to add to that too. We have a client out here in Seattle that really wants to put that on, on the map, how safe bees are, and really be engaged with the community. So like Paige mentioned, they did the same thing too. They offered to paint the boxes with a local nearby elementary school, which obviously just makes it like super fun to look at. But at the same time, they actually located their beehives in this business park on ground level at the center of a parking lot. It's on like a little island, and there's like benches, and Best Bees even provided some signage that describes a little bit about the bee work and just how gentle they are. And it's really cool to see that, like, while having a beehive on a roof is really cool, but it's really cool to have them like on ground level, and these people get to see them every day. When I get to service these hives, people will always stop and ask me questions, and it's always just really fun for me. Obviously, you see me here on this webinar talking bees. I can talk bees all day, but it's just really cool to be able to share this information. Like Paige said, once things start to clear up, we'll be able to get our feet out there and have some more boots on the ground and share the message of honeybees and safety.
Yes, awesome. So let's answer two more questions. I wanted to give you all your time back, as I know everyone is super busy. So why don't we take two more, Emily? And I will also add that any questions that were not answered, we will follow up. We also will be sharing a recording of this webinar, so you can rewatch it. If anyone missed it, they can tune in. So yeah, let's do two more, maybe one for Robin and one for me.
Okay, sure. Let's see. So Robin, maybe this would be an interesting question for you. I don't know if this is something you've encountered in all your time out beekeeping, but we did have someone who asked a question about bears. She typically has bears that come through her yard, and was wondering how that might affect the hives.
Okay, great question. I have not encountered that. For Best Bees, we don't have any current clients that are in bear country, at least in Seattle. But I do keep some hives in bear country up in some farms, and they haven't visited my hives yet in the past 2 years. So maybe I'm due, or maybe it's a good sign. But a lot of things that we do recommend is building some fencing around hives. It's always good to just be safe. It's more worthwhile to have that fencing in place versus just losing your hives. And so always plan for the worst and expect the best. So
Yes, I'll add that. I just saw someone ask if we need electric fences. I do believe that's what we recommend. In New England, we do see some bears up in New Hampshire and some parts of the upstate New York area. And so we have had a few incidents. The best thing I will say with being a client of Best Bees is that you can just give us a call, like, hey, this bear knocked over my hive. We'll send someone as soon as we possibly can and kind of give you, that comfort to know that you're in good hands. But yeah, it's always great to set up a fence. Definitely recommend that if you have bears frequenting your area.
All right, awesome. So for one last question, I thought this would be a fun one to end off of. What is the most interesting fact you know about bees?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Okay. My most interesting fact about bees, there are lots of them, but my most interesting fact is that when bees become defensive, they emit a smell that smells very similar to bananas. I've actually heard that it is almost like genetically the same scent, the same pheromone. And so, as we've been saying, bees are extremely docile. If you're a beekeeper working in the hive, and the hive is particularly strong, occasionally, they will be a little bit cranky, like, hey, let us do our thing. What are you doing here? And that's when, as a beekeeper, and sometimes with friends in the field, we'll be like, I smell bananas. Make sure your gloves are tucked in, and you don't have any holes in your veil. And it's interesting. It's a very unique smell that I've experienced. So that's my favorite fun fact.
That's a great fact. And I always like to share with my clients, just no banana bread near the hives, or no bananas, or just be ready in case you have bananas out. So love that one. My favorite one, I think, would be just the nature of the swarm and how docile the bees are during a swarm. So when bees swarm, it's a natural occurring thing. The queen leaves with 50% of the bees, and they gorge themselves on a ton of honey because they know they're going to go on this great, amazing journey, which could last a few days or a few hours until they find a new home. But that being said, so if you see a swarm in your yard, or you see a swarm on like your banister when you're walking down the stairs, know that the bees are really full on honey. And so they're actually super docile. And I like to think of it this way, like right after Thanksgiving dinner, I'm super full, and my mom's like, hey, Robin, do the dishes. And I'm like, can I just wait a couple hours? I'm going to be lying down here. But that's just like how lazy and like really calm they are. But just I guess that's my favorite fun fact. Docility in a swarm. Is docility a word?
Bad people, docility, if it's not a word, it definitely should be.
All right.
Yeah, people can, like, you can reach your hand directly into a swarm. Very
I haven't done that before. Have you?
No.
Maybe I'll record one and I'll send it to you, Paige, and then we'll see how it goes.
That was my goal.
All right.
Cool. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm so happy for the participation. You've all been great. Like I said, we'll be sure to follow up with any of your questions. We're really grateful for your enthusiasm. As I said, that is one of the hopeful signs that we can continue to help protect our pollinators. And so finally, you know where to find us. If you don't, it is bestbees.com, @bestbees on all social media platforms. You can message us, you can email us, give us a call. We're here to answer any questions and be your go-to bee people. Once again, I'm Paige Mulhern.
And I'm Robin David.
And
Happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day. Yeah. Thank you all.